The Basel City maintenance garage echoed with voices. The day crew bantered with each other while they packed up to head home for the weekend. It was 5 o'clock, and Webb Baker was arriving for the night street sweeping shift. The head of the city's maintenance department figured a more thorough job could be done in the commercial areas of town after business hours, and had lobbied for a night shift. Sick of herding his staff of uncommitted college students as the head of park maintenance, Webb jumped on the opening when it was posted 7 years earlier. "Hey, Webb." Russ Campbell greeted him as he shrugged out of his greasy green coveralls. "I changed baby's oil and flushed her transmission today. She should purr like a kitten for you tonight." Webb smiled at his friend and head mechanic. "Good deal. Thanks, man." His sweeper was only a couple months old. She was the latest and greatest in the street sweeper world. The Street Scrubber 1400. Baby's brushes were ruthless on trash, dirt, and gravel. Her sprayers could blow a grown man across a room, and her vacuum system was a threat to small animals. Webb chewed the inside of his cheek every time he thought about the raccoon that didn't make it off the road in time about a month ago. The sprayers hadn't been running, and somehow the wily guy managed to negotiate the brushes and land in the hopper very much alive and pissed off. Webb had called Russ into the garage at 2 in the morning to help fish it out. Knowing their boss, Stan, would lose his mind if he ever found out, the two men had vowed to keep the tail between them. "I also cleaned out her intake chamber," Russ said, keeping his eyes on the cement garage floor. The two couldn't even talk about the vacuum system without snickering. "That windstorm last night really tore things up out there. I'm kind of surprised Stan didn't call you in early. Reg was only able to get about halfway through his route. Said it was slow going. Plus, he had to wait on the guys cleaning up the big stuff. Said it would have been easier if he'd had baby." Webb smirked. Reg's driving record wasn't the cleanest. He'd been known to bump into parked cars and knock over garbage cans. Stan didn't allow Reg anywhere near the new machine, instead making him drive the ancient Scrub Force 800 the city had had for the last 15 years. It was a constant sore spot between them. "Bah, he caught a lot of flack for bringing me in at noon after the students had their mini riot last year. That was a lot of overtime, and the accounting department was not very happy about it," Webb replied. That had been a hell of a long day, but he'd managed to pay off his truck that month. Stan's commitment to keeping Basel City sparkling had earned the town the cleanest city award in the state the last 3 years. He was always worried about a judge wandering through at precisely the wrong moment on the exact street where the university students had decided to throw a kegger, or through the Renaissance District after local bums had gotten messy dumpster diving. Storms like last night were Stan's worst nightmare. Webb ran his time card through the clock and grabbed baby's keys from the pegboard. "I better get to it. Have a good night, Russ. Tell Tina I said hi." "Will do. She wants to have you over for dinner soon. I'll let you know." Russ headed for the exit with a wave. Aside from the college students who passed through during the summer and a handful of guys in their early 20s, Webb was the only single man in the department. For reasons he could never guess, Webb had been adopted by many of his colleagues' wives. Between them and his hovering mother and sister, he rarely had to cook a meal for himself, which was a relief, as his culinary skills only covered grilling steaks and baking potatoes. After that, it was cold cereal and boxed macaroni and cheese. Crawling into baby's cab, Webb mentally reviewed his route for the night. He knew campus had been hit hardest by the storm since it was up on a hill and heavily wooded. The Renaissance District would be choked with debris blown from overflowing dumpsters. He hoped to make better time than Reg, since the crew cleaning up the limbs and debris too large for the sweeper's vacuum system wouldn't hold him up. Webb turned the key in baby's ignition and pressed the button on the garage door opener. When the door was clear, Webb rumbled through into the gloaming. The sun's last light was red and made the autumn leaves glow as they loosened their grip on their branches.